You're listening to the Everything Kids Books podcast, hosted by Aaron Mackey, a podcast for little learners and their parents who love to read together, as well as the authors who write the books they love. Aaron's written over 20 books for elementary and middle schoolers and has published 5 books. Together, we'll be reading chapters of your favorite books, sharing your original works, giving writing and marketing tips, and interviewing other professionals in the children's book profession. Let's dive in, shall we?
Hi everyone, this is Aaron Mackey, and I want to thank you for joining me today on Everything's Kids Books. I want to start out by apologizing that I did not publish episodes in the month of November each week as I had wanted to. I was recovering from a rather serious knee surgery, and it really took more out of me than I thought it would. I had planned to do regular episodes, but I just was not up for it. But I'm back to almost 100% now and ready to move forward. Today's episode, we're going to be going over a writing tip, and the topic is waiting to edit your manuscript until you've finished writing. Now, I'm going to tell you that this is really hard to do. It's hard not to go back over your work when you go from day to day for writing. So let's say you've finished a chapter or two today and tomorrow you're going to pick up from there. It's tough not to want to review what you had before moving forward, but it's really a best practice because when you start reading over what you've already written, you start wanting to make changes and edits to it. So I'm going to tell you 4 benefits to waiting to do any of the edits and going over your writing until you have finished your first draft. The first benefit of waiting until you've finished writing your manuscript, it allows you to immerse yourself in the entire story, not just bits and pieces of it. This allows for a more cohesive edit and final manuscript to be more cohesive as well. When you start at the beginning for editing and go through the whole story, you're going to catch a lot more for content and the flow of the story that you would not catch if you're going over it bits and pieces. The second benefit is you definitely want to allow your manuscript to rest once you write those 2 final words, the end. This allows your brain to stop obsessing over it. And when you do pick it up and begin editing it later, you're looking at it with fresh eyes and a better discernment for it. The third benefit is editing from start to finish helps you to find those storyline mistakes that might not be evident just editing in bits and pieces. Things like using the wrong name for a place of business or writing the wrong character name in a sentence, you won't easily find if you're just editing in bits and pieces. In sections here and there, but you'll find those inconsistencies easier if you're starting at the beginning and going through the entire story. The fourth benefit is, yes, you want to have a professional edit your manuscript once you're finished, but I believe that the first edit should come from you because you know your story better than anyone. You'll pick up on plot lines that don't mesh or changes you may have made in one part of the manuscript but forgot to make in another part. I've had it before where I've changed a character's name and I didn't catch them all. So, going from start to finish allowed me to find those type errors and fix it. Or I changed the name of a pizza shop in Laurel Hill. And, having family members read over it, they found, it says Ray's Pizza here and it says this and the other. So, it's very, very good to go through from start to finish instead of editing in pieces. Now, there are a couple of negatives that I just want to put out there, and this is for editing while you're going through. So you know what to expect if you really do go just a chapter here or there to edit. If you edit while you're still working on your manuscript, you will spend too much time going over and over what you have written and never reach the end. You're never going to be happy, especially when the story is a constant in your mind. You're always going to think of a better way to word this or a different way to have that storyline carry out. You're constantly going to want to make changes, and you'll never get to the end. The second negative to editing while you're writing is that no matter how hard you try, you will never make your manuscript perfect. But if you continually edit your work as you go, you will always find something to change or tweak. You'll never be happy with everything. You'll feel that there has to be something that you can change or you can make better if you edit while you're writing. Now, I want to go over my process a little bit for you. I finish my manuscript and I set it aside for a month. Now, I know what you're thinking, a month is too long, but I find this really allows me to truly look at the manuscript with fresh eyes when I pick it back up again. I'm not still obsessing about the right way to end a certain scene anymore, and I can start from the beginning. This also lets me feel like I'm in the story along with the characters when I start at the beginning. Remember, you created these characters in the story. You should love it more than anyone because it came from you. You wouldn't want to write something that you hate. A lot of my editing consists of changing specific words or phrases in my manuscript to ones I feel fit better in the story. Sometimes when you're writing, you're just forcing yourself to put words on the page, and they may not be the best phrasing. But it's when you're editing that you're able to fix this and find a better way to write these scenes or the dialogue. I also make sure I'm not using repetitive words too much, like said or replied. I use writing tools I've found online, such as your dictionary's example of physical descriptions, to find better wording for how I want to describe a character. Once I get the story how I want it, that's when I then pass it off to my beta readers, namely my family. I have my mom, my sister, and my nieces and nephew read the manuscript to get their opinions and have them find any mistakes I may have missed. And believe me, there are always mistakes that I miss. There will even be mistakes that the professional editors miss. It just happens. Your mind will read over a line and know what it's supposed to say, and it won't pick up that that's not what it actually says. So the more eyes you have on it, especially fresh eyes, the more mistakes that will be caught. Now, once my family has read over them and they give me their feedback, and I've made my adjustments from that, then I will contact a professional editor to do a final edit. I personally use Willie Rose 07 on Fiverr, and she does a phenomenal job. She catches my many comma errors. For some reason, I struggle with commas, as well as my capitalization errors. Sometimes it makes me feel like I don't know basic grammar, but I've just accepted that these two areas are my problem areas for some reason. She also makes changes for wording choices and phrasing throughout the manuscript. And she sends me 2 copies of my manuscript back. One that has the comments out in the margin as to what should be fixed or changed, and a second copy where she has already made all of the changes. This way, if I don't agree with a change, it's very easy to find it in the manuscript and put it back the way I had it. Now, my final thought on editing is this. It is so important to make your manuscript as professional as you can and get it to a well-written final product if you want your writing to be taken seriously and this to be a career instead of just a hobby. This is your product that you are giving to the world. You want it to shine and make the reader want to come back for more books that you write. If you have spelling errors and your story falls flat, they aren't going to make it through the manuscript, let alone want to read anything else that you've written. So please make sure you're focusing on getting your product as professional as you can. That's today's show, guys. Thank you all for listening. I hope you enjoyed the episode and found it helpful. As always, I would love to hear what topics you would like me to cover in future episodes, so shoot me an email with your suggestions, and I'll work them into the future shows. Have a wonderful evening, and God bless each of you.
Thanks for listening to Everything Kids Books. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, rate, and review in Apple Podcast. Do you have a favorite children's book? Do you have an original book or chapter that you've written? Email it to Erin at erinmackeyauthor@yahoo.com. It could be featured on the next episode. For more information, to see Erin's published books, and to sign up for Erin's newsletter, visit www.erinmackeyauthor.com. Until next time, keep reading and keep writing.